The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you.
Hello, and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist, Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
the cameraman in the found footage film that always dies at some point in the movie, that is Eric Velasquez. My pronouns are also he, him.
You know, is this our first found footage movie?
This is our first found film footage, yes. This is it. No.
And this is one, like, I think found footage has kind of gotten a bad rap in recent years. People kind of got burned out on it, and you get a lot of found footage hate these days. Mm-hmm. I generally like found footage. I think this may have been better not as found footage, but I did still enjoy it this way. See,
like, I am hit or miss on found footage films. I actually like this because there's a lot more... I like the fact that it's found footage because there's a lot more explanation as to why this is the case.
Yeah, it does at least have good framing story around it. Because, yeah, like you said, a lot of times found footage, it's like, why are they still carrying a camera?
Right.
Like, even if it's like we understand why they have it at the beginning, at some point it's like they would set the camera down. They would stop caring about filming this. Mm-hmm. But this one, it makes sense the whole way through. So
it does, but they don't say why until 3/4 of the way through the movie.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's a very good reason.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
It makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Yeah, it does have a good twist with that kind of story.
Amazing. All right, so let's get this party started. So we start off with a basically camera reel. We've got, I believe his name is it Dmitry Raznov?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Introducing himself as basically he's, a graduate of this prestigious Russian film school, and he's basically going to record all this stuff for the motherland. Now, help me out here. Does he actually say, for the love of the motherland and the Nazi place?
I think he just, because he does say something about that Stalin requested him to do this, but I don't think he has any Nazi affiliations.
Well, I would hope not, because they're currently at war with the Nazis.
Right.
Should we say Nazis or Yahtzees? I don't know. Who knows? But the point is that there really are no good guys. But I could have sworn he said something about the Reichstag, and it's no. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it's so that's the whole sort of framing story, is that like he is following this group of Soviet soldiers and that they're like headed into Nazi territory. I think at first just to do a couple missions, and ultimately our big mission is that like there's some sort of rescue that they need to help with.
Right. They're going to rescue some Russian soldiers that are pinned down.
The beginning, it actually works really well in its found footageness in that like it's kind of a slow build. Like it starts and it's just a war movie, and it's not a particularly exciting war movie. You just have a lot of footage of just soldiers just kind of walking around, in just strange territory and just like living an unpleasant sort of like soldier's existence.
Right. Well, also we get a couple of things of them, the group in question, questionably being nice to people, but probably torturing them. Like, the guy who plays Vasily gives off some strong Clockwork Orange vibes.
Yeah, he's definitely like, you got to have that one like soldier who's like a little too gung-ho on the violence, and yeah, he's definitely that guy.
Yeah, he's strong Alex vibes from Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like he's basically like strong arming an old woman into showing this candy bar that he gave her, and she's like, "Please don't shoot me." Like she doesn't say it, but that's the impression she's giving off.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, she looks scared, and then there's like the fake sort of like happy, like she's like smiling really fake, like, yes, this is good, I'm very happy. There's a lot of just like footage of marching, and we get some battle like montage footage. And then I think the first sort of like indication that like stuff is not normal is that they come across this weird skeleton in the woods that is not any animal you've ever seen. Like it's just very strange.
Yeah, it's like human body with maybe wolf or horse head. Mm-hmm. Like skeleton. It's all skeletal. There is no flesh on the bones.
But yeah, it has like shoulder blades of a humanoid type thing, but the head is very much not a human head.
Right.
And yeah, they're very. Everyone's like, "What is?" They're very confused by this, as you would be.
Yeah, and then we get a lovely scene. By the way, if you don't like maggots, this is not your movie, because we get one scene of a character by the name of Ivan scooping some maggots out of the wound in his leg. So we know he's not long for this world.
Right. And we don't, it's like we very slowly get the names of most of these guys. For a while, it's just kind of like anonymous soldiers. We know Dimitri's the guy behind the camera. And then, like you said, we get Ivan. And then I think the next person we get a name for is Sergey. He gets kind of like a little interview segment where like they're going to sit down and chat, and we find out that he's actually Polish, not Russian, and was able to like escape the Nazis, and then he's basically fighting for his homeland with the Russian group, because there's no Polish army to be part of, basically. And
more specifically, he's got a girl back home, so that also does not bode well for characters in these movies.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and then at that point the commander comes in and is like, "Hey, stop filming. We got something to do." And he leads the troops over a hill, and there's like a farmhouse. This is another part where it's like they're not, maybe not so good guys here, because they like sack this farmhouse like for supplies, but they kind of like drag the people out. And then the commander's like, "Hey, cut the camera. Well, we don't need to film this."
We also hear shots and whimpering, so they probably kill a couple dogs that these people own.
Yeah, and like with the camera cutting, there's definitely the implication that like either these people are not well at the end of this. Like there's probably some murder, possibly some rape. Like it's not a good scene here for sure.
Once again, establishing there are no good guys in this movie.
Yeah. So like it's a little bit later we find out that like they've gotten a radio call sending them like they need to go rescue this group that we were mentioning earlier. They're pinned down somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, and they're like, "Okay, I mean, I guess we got to do it. That's the job."
Right, but the weird thing is though they're able to like hear the message, but they're not able to communicate back to them. Mm-hmm. So that's crazy.
Yeah, and so they can't really request any more info, but they're just like, I guess we got to go. We can't say no because we can't tell them we're not helping. So they're headed that way. A little bit later, as they're headed out, they come across a dead body of a soldier, or a mutilated body at least. It starts twitching and moving. Like it seems dead, but it's not dead in the way that normal things are dead.
Yeah, and it's got little weird like metal fingers.
There's something strange going on here for sure.
Yeah.
But before they can spend too much time worrying about that, they see a bunch of smoke off in the distance, and they're like, "Oh, that must be where we're supposed to go." So now we've got a good trajectory where we're going to head towards the smoke.
Right. So they do that, and they come upon this weird contraption that looks like anti-tank or anti-aircraft, but it also looks like the skeletal person inside is like not going to get out of that thing.
Right.
They're very, space jockey from Alien.
Yes, definitely. Things are definitely not right here. Yeah. There's something very bad happening.
Absolutely.
There's just a bunch of like various abandoned gear. Like it looks like there was a battle here, and then they come across a convent that has been destroyed, specifically destroyed by artillery, not from like bombs from planes. So They're like, I don't know who would have done this because our people didn't do this, and we don't have any artillery back this far. So that's odd. And then they around the backside of this building, they find a giant pile of dead nuns that have been lit on fire.
Right, but some of them are still alive. That's because they're moaning in pain.
Yeah, and like it's like they try to talk to one of them, but I think it's one of those things where it's like they end up just kind of putting her out of her misery. I think it's kind of how it plays out.
Yeah, I think Vasily comes in with a knife and just finishes her off, because that's the kind of guy Vasily is. He's always there for a mercy kill or just to kill in general.
Right.
I mean, he's your go-to in this movie.
Absolutely, yeah. And then, like, next to the convent, they find a graveyard, but all the graves have been dug up.
Oh, that's
and
weird.
There's just a bunch of empty coffins everywhere.
Yeah, and then we also get, like, the steeple of the church, the crucifix, and it's covered in wires and electrical equipment. That's weird, right? It's like an antenna or something, maybe a lightning rod.
Yep. I think you may be onto something there. And yeah, so at that point they go into a building, and I could have sworn at first they said it was a factory, but then later they start saying it's a church.
No, So what they say is this is supposed to be a church, but it seems more like a factory.
Okay.
Yeah, because
it does, like, it's got a bunch of, like, mechanical equipment and stuff. It does not look like it. Okay, that makes more sense then. There's like a generator, all the lights are off, and they managed to get the generator going, turning on some of the lights.
Well,
so now it's like, okay.
Because our lovable fuck up, Sasha, is fucking with wires, and Dimitri's like, dude, stop fucking with that. Go turn on the generator. And Sasha like does so, but it's like, oh, is Sasha gonna be the first one to die because he's such a fuck up?
Sasha is not actually a soldier, right? He's like Dimitri's assistant.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
He's the assistant cameraman, but he's also the guy there just like, here's a rifle, deal with it.
Yeah.
So he's kind of the toady for the whole group.
Yeah, it's like an intern basically.
Quite literally. They're like, you're going to kill some people, Sasha. I know you're supposed to be the camera guy, but we need more guns.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out the other guys have also found something. It looks like something out of either a fetish club or a Tool video.
Yeah, this thing, it's weird because it's probably the most simplistic of the things we're going to see, but it's kind of the most terrifying in a way because of that. Like,
yeah. The skin's all sewn on, and not the best sew job in the world.
Yeah, so it's like a sort of corpse laying on the ground, and yeah, like you see stitches all over it, but it's like, it's almost as if they took a bunch of random skin from other people and then just sewed it over so there's like, it doesn't have the parts that it should. Like, there's no genitals, there's no nipples or belly button. It's just like solid skin from head to toe, except that it has like weird metal hands, and the head is all like blackened and burnt, and it has like a big wire coming out of the top of it.
Right. At least there's an actress in the suit. I don't know if the thing is supposed to be a woman or even supposed to be one person. But, I mean, the way they move is very feminine, so that's what I'm going with. I actually did look up. It is an actress. They said simply because, like, to make it androgynous from the waist down, it was easier to cover, with the right?
skins. Yeah. And yeah, like, she kind of has, like, dancer kind of qualities in, like, a creepy contortionist sort of way.
Yeah. Really cool, honestly.
Yeah, so, like, we've kind of given it away that, like, it's laying there, seems to be dead, and then they kind of poke at it, and it just, like, jumps up and starts kind of, like, attacking them, even though it has, like, no face, it can't see. It's, and I think that they call this thing the burnt match head man, because it just, like, is just, like, a thin, stickly person with just, like, a burnt head.
I'll buy that. But yeah, because our soldiers are such masculine men, instead of just putting it down right away, they kind of fuck with it. Like, they kind of play like keep away, where they put their hands on its head and kind of push it away, foregoing the fact that it has knife hands.
Right.
Like, this thing's fucking like Freddy Krueger's pissed off little brother, sister, non-binary person.
Yeah, and that obviously does not pay off because it manages to corner the commander and disembowel him.
You know, I don't think they ever actually name him in the movie, but apparently his name's Victor. And yeah, I mean, it guts him. We get to see intestines and everything, and then they take everything seriously and actually kill the thing.
Which is, it's perfect to kill the commander first, because the commander obviously is what keeps everything moving in the right direction and kind of like gives them focus, and now they're kind of like disconnected from that focus.
Right, and who does the mercy kill? Of course, it's our boy Vasily. He's just like, I'll kill him, Shank.
Yeah. So then Sergei, the Polish soldier, is like, all right, I'm going to take command. And Vasily's like, no, you're not. Like, you're not even Russian. You're not taking command of this group.
Right, and Sergei's like, I got more bars than you. I have better signal.
Yeah, but Vasily's like, I've been with this group longer, so I have tenure or you know, I have seniority or whatever. Basically, they put it to a vote with the rest of the crew, and everybody's like, no, we're going with Sergei.
He's stable.
You're a loose cannon. Yeah.
Right.
So already we got that tension in the group, and you know, Vasily's like already kind of on the outs with everybody. So that's, you know, he was already kind of dangerous, and now that makes him even more dangerous.
Right, because not only does he want to kill everything, he also wants to be the guy in charge of killing everything.
Right.
Yeah, that's very dangerous. But also, we don't have too much time to dwell on that, because we get a little bit of whimpering, and we also get like a cut to where the group is going around the side of a building, and then they come into this rabbit pen. And our boy Vasily, showing that he's just the worst, is like, hey, there's dinner! Grabs a rabbit and bashes it over a crate like a madman.
Yeah, and there are like old movies where it's like, oh shit, we're seeing real animal death. In this case, I mean, it looks very real, but you know, it wasn't. Yeah. But you know, if animal death is not your thing,
stay away.
You know, be aware of this one moment here.
Oh, also gore, blood and gore, and
yeah, this movie's very gory.
And almost SA, we get pretty close. I don't think we actually get there, thank heaven. So
yeah, but yeah, this movie, you know, it's starring like a bunch of Nazis, a bunch of monsters. You know, these aren't good guys, so there's going to be some rough stuff in this.
There's really not any like. There's no non-monsters except for a couple people we'll meet here in a minute. They're about it.
Yeah, everybody in this is terrible to some degree. Yeah,
pretty much. Speaking of which, we have a random old guy who's coming to feed the rabbits, and Vasily just shoots him in the leg.
Yeah.
Without a word.
Yeah, doesn't discuss anything. The rest of the soldiers stop him, and they're like, we need to, you know, this guy might know some stuff. He might be able to tell us where our people are. Like, we need to, you know, talk to him.
Yeah.
They set him down, and at first it's like friendly interrogation, and it quickly gets less friendly, and I think it's Vasily again that like cuts off one of his fingers, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Like Dimitri's trying to be all suave about it, and he probably would get some results. But Vasily's like, nah, fuck that shit. We're taking a finger for every time you don't answer a question directly. And he does at least one. By the way, one of the best lines in this whole movie is spoken, of course, by Vasily. It's when the old man says, you stole some of my rabbits. And Vasily's like, I didn't steal your rabbits, comrade. I liberated them from fascist oppression. What a line. What a line.
But yeah, so the finger is pretty much the last straw for the old man, and he's like, yeah, I'll take you to your people. I can get you part of the way there at least. And he also does say that, you know, the reason that the town is empty is that everyone is either dead or they ran away. They fled from the things that the doctor makes. And everyone's like, what do you mean the things? And you know, he's like, you'll see. Right. He's kind of like cagey about what that entails.
Yeah, very suspicious, very suspicious.
And so, yeah, he starts leading them away. There's like a nearby building that they go into, and then they go down into a basement. And it's one of those like classic, you know, this movie has some very video game vibes pretty much from here on, especially like, cause we got narrow hallways where we're just seeing like it's like a first-person shooter. You know, we've got Dimitri's camera. That's what we see, and you know, it's like he'll walk down a hallway, turn a corner, you know, see something scary, you have to turn around, run away, and you know, we get a lot of just like survival horror kind of vibes here.
There's a specific video game franchise and specific video game I'm going to call out here in a second. Once we get there.
Yeah, like, but you know, if you play any of those kind of like, even like Doom, but like Outlast or something like that, where you're just like wandering around hallways and then suddenly being surprised by things, which is pretty much what happens from here. They walk down a hall, and then suddenly the old man has just kind of vanished. They're like, wait, wasn't he just right here? Where did he go?
Right, he's like, hey, go down that hallway, and when everyone turns to look, he just vanishes like a ghost.
Yeah, so now they're in this very strange, unfamiliar place. They have no guide. They don't know they don't know where they are or where to go. And then pretty much right after that, another monster appears. This one also doesn't really seem to have a face. He's kind of blind, but he has 2 huge-ass sickles for hands.
Right, and I could have swore he just, like, shanked Dimitri. It's like, oh, we lost the cameraman already. Okay. But, like, no matter how many times he stabbed, I guess he didn't hurt Dimitri? Don't know. That's weird.
Yeah, Dimitri does manage to get away somehow, and then, like, so he turns and runs the other direction away from him, and then we see the soldiers ahead now being pursued by another monster, which is one of the coolest ones in the movie, I think. So it has, like, almost like a sideways clamshell made of metal for a head.
The Iron Maiden head.
Yeah, and when it opens, there's like almost like a skull inside.
Yeah.
Like it's like the head has like no flesh and everything, and it just like is the metal like exoskeleton is sort of chomping, and in fact chomps down on
Ivan.
Is it Ivan?
Yeah, gets Ivan right in the head.
Yeah, they managed to get him away from it, but he's very, very fucked up from being crushed by this thing.
Right. Yeah, and they managed to get him away from that area. They get him onto a table. And Vasily's like, let me kill him. Let me mercy kill him.
Yeah.
And luckily, Ivan has enough sense to just punch Vasily in the face.
Yeah. And so, yeah, they start talking. They're like, what the fuck is going on here? What is all this stuff? And they're like, this has got to be the Nazis, because only Nazis would create such horrible creatures.
Right. Only Nazis would do that. Nobody else would do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, which, you know, I mean, there definitely is, like, you know, some, like, Mengele vibes to this whole situation, but it's definitely not only Nazis that would do this kind of thing. You know, there's throughout history many times that the military has experimented on humans to, you know, including the American military.
Yeah.
You know, we haven't made giant clamshell Iron Maiden skull monsters, but, you know,
mostly because we haven't had the opportunity.
Right.
Let's be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, so as they're kind of discussing that, they hear some gunshots and then track them down and find a few German villagers who have been hiding out and have survived so far in this abandoned town.
Yeah, it looks like an old man. Maybe he's a soldier named Fritz. And then we've got the mother. What is her name?
Yeah, I know she's like a nurse. What did
she is? She is a nurse. Eva. Eva's her name.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we got little Hans.
Of course, Hans. You got to have a.
Yeah, so we got Hans, Fritz, and Eva.
The soldiers are like, if you've been here, how many more monsters are out there? And they're like, we don't know, because he keeps making more. Like, there's a never-ending supply of monsters.
We've just been hiding this entire time.
Yeah, and thankfully, you know, Eva reveals that she's a nurse, which kind of saves them, you know, because Vasily is like, we should just kill them. They're a liability. But yeah, she's like, I can help your man here on the table. I can, you know, see if we can save him.
Right. The only thing we have to do is take his helmet off.
Yeah. They do manage to get the helmet off, but in the process, the top of his skull and like part of his brain comes out too.
Okay. Did you catch this? Did you catch that, like, as they were panning around the camera, like when they went to, before Eva goes to remove the helmet, in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you see something drop down from the ceiling. Did you catch that?
No, I did not.
I did. My ADHD sense was tingling. And I was like, what? What was that? Rewind. Oh, shit. we've got an infiltrator in the building, folks. Shit's about to pop off.
Yeah. One other thing that we should also mention that this movie does that's very cool and it gives it serious rewatchability value is that a lot of this movie is long single takes. Mm-hmm. And all the monsters are practical effects. So there's a lot of stuff where it's like, as they're running and the camera's panning around, if you pay attention or go back and rewatch things, there's so much stuff that's like, I can't imagine how difficult this was to choreograph, to get all these creature actors and all of their complicated suits to like know when to jump out and then when to like, you know, the camera goes and it goes back and they're gone and all that. And, you know, like stuff with Ivan here, I think if I remember right, you've got Ivan on the table. You've got the actor playing Ivan with his helmet and stuff. The camera pans away, and then when it doesn't ever cut, and then comes back, and then you've got a dummy version of Ivan so that we can expose his brain and stuff. But like, it's all in one shot. So like, you know, they pan away. Ivan has to get up, run away from the table. They got to get the dummy onto the table and nail that whole shot in like one thing. Which is just, I mean, incredible. Like
and literally there are practical effects that they don't have eyes, so they like there's no eye holes for the actual actors in the suits to see. So either they've got really good radios in those things, or you know they just choreographed everything to a T.
Yeah, it's a really, really impressive movie. It's, you know, like, it's a low budget movie, like, and you know, it's a little silly, I guess, in that, like, you know, you got all these just weird monsters and stuff, but like, you know, it does not look cheap. Like, they really put a lot into this movie.
Mm-hmm. No, this is what I would call a special effects artist movie, in which so it's like the Chioda Brothers Killer Clowns from Outer Space, right? Where these special effects artists get the budgets to make the movie, like Psycho Goreman, like I said, Killer Clowns, even Terrifier.
Yeah.
So, but this one actually has a good story. Like,
it really does.
I'm not saying that those don't, but like, it's a very smart, dumb movie.
Absolutely, yeah. And in most cases, when you have those special effects type movies, you know, like Psycho Goreman or Killer Clowns or whatever, it's more about the effects, and it's like the story is just like, hey, let's do something kind of fun and silly, so that we can move from set piece to set piece.
Exactly. It doesn't have to.
But this one, like, they you know, like, there's a twist in this. There's, you know, like, elaborate choreography. So yeah, I mean, it's. You know, they spent time and made this look good and work really well.
Yeah, honestly, I'll say this movie has been cheated. It should have had more eyes on it.
Absolutely, yeah, I think so. Yeah, it came out the same year as Army of Frankenstein, so like, I think that was a deficit right away. You get these two movies with similar names coming out at the same time. One's very silly, one's pretty serious. But like, you're gonna assume they're both just kind of like wacky monster fight type movies, like Army of Frankenstein's is. And yeah, I think that this one kind of like got undersold because of that.
Right, and we can't even blame it on Overlord, because that wouldn't come out for another 5 years.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, so as you mentioned, you know, so you had the monster come down from the ceiling right as they're sort of like realizing that Ivan is not going to make it. And suddenly we just have a bunch of monsters sort of like swarm in.
Right, well, Alexei, the thing, like, literally impales Alexei through the back of the head.
And this is probably the most, like, well-known monster from this movie. Like, you'll see this in, like, promo
the Mosquito
stuff
thing.
A lot. Yeah, because it looks so fucking cool. Like, it's like a gas mask face with a big drill bit coming out where the hose would be, but then it also walks on stilts on its hands and feet, so it like moves around on four legs. And yeah, it's just, I mean, like, the stunt actor in this thing, like, is just doing some incredible work to like move around in this.
What are those horrible things from Return to Oz? The Wheelers. It has very Wheelers vibes too. Right, because the arms are the exact length of the legs, and it's like you said, it's walking on all fours. Yeah, it's very Wheelers from Return to Oz, if you haven't seen that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just super creepy. And yeah, like you said, it drills through his face, and then everybody's running, and it gets super chaotic for a little bit, and we've just, we're just seeing Dimitri's side of things, but he's running around. He runs away from the Mosquito monster, and then runs into another sort of standard issue monster with like the blades for hands.
Right.
And it knocks him down, and so then we've just got like the camera laying on the ground for a little bit, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, but it dragged somebody off, and I was like, "Oh, Dimitri got again." Okay, but no, it clearly wasn't Dimitri. Who was it? Like, it wasn't Sasha. It wasn't Dimitri. Was it Hans?
Was it just the? Was it or was it just the body that he?
No, it wasn't Hans. You're right. It may have been the body. You're right. Okay, that makes sense if it was the body of like Alexei or Ivan. Mm-hmm. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, and I would say if you are somebody who is at all like not a fan of found footage, this section right here is probably going to be your least favorite part because it's very, it's shaky cam. Like, he's running around, we get a monster to pop out, he turns around, runs away.
There's a lot of again, this is very haunted house. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it definitely has haunted house feelings. It's got some video game vibes for sure. Yeah, we get Nazi tank things walking around.
Yeah, there's just a lot of, and it's like, that's the thing too, is like, we have so many of these crazy creatures, and like some of them you'll get to see in the background for 2 seconds as Dimitri's running, and it's like, that thing had to, that was not easy or cheap to make, like, and they may just appear briefly. I did see that, like, apparently one of the things they did was they built bodies and heads that they could like swap out, like move from one to the other, so that they could like reuse some parts to have a little bit more monsters with less work.
That's really smart.
Yeah, it works well. Yeah,
I mean, honestly, there are parts where you're like, oh, that could have been the thing from this, but also it's different enough that it's cool. Why do I care?
Absolutely, yeah.
Then we find out, wait a second, Sergei has found something in Dimitri's backpack. What the fuck is this thing?
Yeah, he calls everybody over, and he's like, this is a fucking radio jammer. This is why we haven't been able to get any messages across. Like, why do you have this? Are you like a double agent? Like, what is going on? And Vasily's ready to kill him. Like, he's like, why are we talking to this guy?
He kicks the shit out of Dimitri a couple times.
Yeah. And Dimitri's like, no. I am your superior officer.
Right, I'm
and they're like,
superior
bullshit.
Officer. Yeah.
Yeah, people aren't buying it. And he's like, and then they also they realize that not only is this a jammer, but the distress call they got was faked. That Dimitri broadcast that to them.
There are no soldiers here. That's weird. Why would we be here then?
Yeah. So Dimitri's like, not only am I your superior officer, but I know all of your families. And if you don't do what I say, if I don't call off people back in Russia, your families are dead. Right. So you got to do what I say.
Right. And we're here to capture a doctor. So, interesting. Okay.
And they're like, why didn't we just know this to begin with? Why all this like cloak and dagger stuff? And he's like, well, this mission is highly top secret. You couldn't tell anybody about it back home, so you couldn't know about it until you were off the grid, basically.
Yeah, basically too far to go back.
Yeah. So this whole thing with all these weird monsters and this doctor we keep hearing about, Russia knew about it. So this isn't a surprise to Dimitri. He was expecting to find this, which, is a shame. If he had let the soldiers know, they could have been more prepared.
Well, also, they probably would have turned around and said, fuck you, from the word.
Yeah, true. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, like a sensible person would, right?
Yeah.
Except Vasily. I feel like Vasily would have been like, all right, let's do this thing.
Yeah, I'm down, yeah. So they're kind of stuck. They have to keep exploring. At various points, they find some like mangled dead bodies that are not alive, like that have not been worked on or revived yet. But then at some point, they eventually get to like another hive of the monsters, and
we get another like haunted house section.
Yeah, it's a lot of them running, and just we see tons and tons of different. And apparently, what they call all these monsters is zombots.
Right, zombots.
So like they're half flesh, half undead person, and half robot. So it's the perfect name.
It's what it says on the tin, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, as they basically get chased deeper and deeper into the structure, they move into a bunker, and they try to they slam all the doors in succession, and they get ready to shoot this one, but I'm pretty sure it's basically a living landmine. It's like, don't shoot that one. Don't hit that one at all.
Yeah. And so they eventually they find a garbage chute that's going to go down that goes down to a lower level, but they don't know what's down there. So they're like, all right, so what we're going to do, little Hans, we're going to lower you down.
They do have a brief argument, but then they're like, no, we should throw Dimitri down there. And Dimitri's like, fuck that. If I die, you're fucked. And then they're like, nah, Hans, we'll get little Hans down there. That'll be fine. Yeah,
so they start to lower him down, and then all of a sudden there's like a noise, like something's coming up the chute.
Yeah, something's revving.
Yeah, something very loud, and then suddenly Hans is dead, and then something comes out of the chute, and it is a huge, bulky dude with a whole ass plane propeller for a head.
Now, okay, here's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that Capcom stole this from this movie. I'm just saying there is a very good case for legal action. Okay? Because, what are they called? I think they're the Soldats from Resident Evil Village.
Okay.
Yeah, so look that up. And, let me verify that that's exactly what they're called. Yeah, it's a form of the Soldats. So, yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah, and this is like the tank dude. Like when you see this, you're like, oh fuck!
Right?
These are, this guy is not going to be taken down nearly as easy as some of these other guys.
No, it's not like you could run up and punch him, because if you do, you're going to lose your whole arm to that damn propeller.
So they're kind of running from him and trying to fight him, and I think eventually they manage to take him out. Somebody cuts one of the fuel lines off of the engine.
Sergei actually comes in with the kill this time.
Yeah, and so then gas starts leaking all over the thing's body, and then he just bursts into flames.
Right. I'm just saying, this is so much like Village. But yeah, and he catches on fire. Well, it turns out when he exploded, he left something for Fritz. He left pieces of his propeller in Fritz's skull. So we're down another possible innocent? Probably not.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, so our crew is, dwindling pretty quickly here.
Boy, but, well, got bad news for you, because everything's about to go south real quick.
Yeah, so at this point, the crew is pretty pissed off about how things have been going down, and they're just like, fuck it, we're not doing this anymore. We're getting out of here. But Dimitri, you can keep going with your little plan. So they shove him down the chute, and then throw all of his camera equipment down after him, and they're just like, see you later, Dimitri.
Right. And he's like, fuck you guys.
Yeah. But the way the chute is, he can't get back up. He can't, it's too much of an angle and too slippery.
Probably from all the viscera.
Right. So he kind of is forced to continue to explore to even find a way out.
Yeah, and he's actually lamenting his situation. He's like, fuck, I'm so fucked. Fuck these guys. And then something starts stopping from off camera, and he's like, oh shit.
But then it's weird because he starts seeing zombots that are working and that don't care about him. They're not attacking him. They're just doing a job, and they're just not interested in him at all. He's just able to walk right by them.
Well, that is until they're not, right? And they start chasing him now. And they chase him into a bunker, and we get a Blair Witch speech from him, right?
Yes, that's exactly what I wrote.
Literally, Mom, Dad, I'm so sorry. Forgive me, I love you.
Yeah.
The only thing we're missing is the
nose
run. That had to be a gag, right? They were like...
It seems like it.
Yeah, it had to be.
Yeah, it had to be a nod to that for sure. Because it doesn't really feel in character with him up to this point.
Right.
He's kind of cold and heartless, and suddenly he's apologizing to his family back home and everything.
That doesn't jive with everything we've seen about this Dimitri. He's cold-blooded.
And so after he films that, he keeps exploring, and he finds a creepy science lab with one of the weirdest experiments that of all the weird shit we see.
This is the second most horrifying. I don't know why there's one that's more horrifying to me, but this is the second one. We see just a head in a display case, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. I wonder if that head's still alive. It is alive, and it's attached to a teddy bear.
Yes.
What did this poor woman do?
Yeah, and she's like, you can see her mouth, like it's a living woman's head sewn onto just the lower half of a teddy bear. Yeah, the nightmare. Like,
yeah, like she fucked something up real bad. Like that's the only excuse for that. I mean, it's not an excuse. That's the only explanation for that.
Yeah, and because like the rest of the monsters, at least they can move around. Like she is stuck. Like. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's terrible.
This is definitely
absolutely. Yeah. So he, sees that woman alive and runs out to the next room, which is also horrifying.
Well, before we go there, on the radio, as in that room, did you notice they were playing "Life Could Be a Dream"? That's fun. That's a fun little 1940s thing there.
This movie does have the soundtrack is a lot of old-timey stuff and stuff that would have existed at the time, and that just has a spooky vibe. Like it's just that kind of reminds me of the BioShock movie, just weird records playing in the background and stuff. It just there's just something ominous about that.
Yeah, but I think you were about to discuss an Easter egg, or we would call that an Easter egg. There's a shield, and whose name's on that shield?
Oh no, I didn't catch this.
Oh, you didn't catch the Frankenstein crest?
Oh, really?
Yeah. This is the actual descendant of the Frankenstein family. Glorious.
I did not catch that crest. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yep. There's something for you to go back and check out then.
Yeah, I definitely will. But yeah, so this room is there's just hundreds and hundreds of corpses hanging from the ceiling, and there's something stomping around. This is a really big room, a warehouse kind of room.
It's almost kind of like a beef deep freezer, right? But way bigger. It's a gym. Yeah. It's the size of a gymnasium.
Yeah. Dimitri comes in at one end, and at the far other end, there's something kind of stomping around that then hoists another corpse up into the ceiling. And so Dimitri's kind of ducked down. There's mining type carts, just the big metal carts.
Body parts.
Yeah. And so he's kind of hiding behind one of those, and there's somebody still alive in one. Was that somebody that we know or not? It was kind of dark and he wasn't in good shape, so I couldn't quite tell.
Yeah, I thought we knew him too. He was obviously speaking German though, and we haven't really had too many characters that are just speaking German.
Right.
And according to the credits, we haven't met them because his name is Dieter, the dying Nazi officer.
Okay.
he's the dying guy.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's kind of begging Dimitri for help, and Dimitri's like, nah, I gotta go. I can't. I'm not helping you. I gotta not get killed here. So.
Right. Yeah, and as another one of those zombots comes over, Dimitri's like, fuck you, I'm out, and runs over to the other side of the room, and still keeps the camera trained on the cart though. So he's still doing his job. Even when shit's gone down.
And then we get kind of one more sort of serious haunted house bit where he's doing a lot of running, and we see a lot of sort of basic kind of zombots, various claw-handed things or blade-handed things. This is sort of Zombot greatest hits of what we've seen so far.
Right. I wrote down horror. He did a horror circuit. But yeah, it's the same thing, right? And how did he dodge all these things? Because they're literally within arm's distance. They have hook hands. Or how?
Yeah, I don't know. He is the luckiest guy alive up to this point.
Right? Clearly.
But eventually he does get knocked out. You kind of have to fudge things here, because when a person gets knocked out, a camera doesn't necessarily get knocked out or come back online when the person comes back online. But it's kind of the camera hits the ground and goes fuzzy, and then the footage starts back up after Dimitri wakes up.
Yeah, did you catch who knocked him out?
No.
It was Ivan. They replaced Ivan's hands with a sledgehammer, and what was the other thing? It was a pick or something, and he KO'd him with the hammer. Yeah, so
I just thought it was a Zombot. I did not. Okay, yeah, there's all kinds of shit I need to catch when I watch this again.
Dude, everything's blink or you'll miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the downfall to found footage, is when you're moving around really fast, you don't get to really like hone in and see stuff, which is kind of part of it too, is because things like this, these kind of monsters, they look better when you don't have time to spend a lot of time looking at them. Yeah. Although in this case, I think they look fantastic and would do fine with sustained viewing.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of Cenobite-ness to these things too, right?
Oh, definitely,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know why they didn't like focus on a few of them though. Like, I appreciate that they had so many, but, like, if we just stuck to a couple, as opposed to a video game catalog's worth of, like, creatures.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, because it's like, I would have liked to spend some time with the Mosquito Man and the Propeller Man, and really, like, we do spend a little bit more time with them than most, but yeah, like, still, you don't really ever get, like, just a good sustained shot of them, that's not from Dimitri's shaky perspective.
Right. I think we do get more of the Mosquito Man than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, still. But yeah, so it turns out the guy who got his finger cut off, he's back because we see that there's now stitches around that finger, and it's turning on the camera. And hey, there's Dimitri. Mm-hmm. They're sitting at a table. It's going to be a lovely day, right?
Yeah, and so Dimitri, like, they're in the animal cage area. They're back there, and the man serves Dimitri some soup, and he's like, "You need to eat this to make you got to get your strength back up. This will make you strong."
Mm-hmm. Dimitri's like, "No, I don't think so."
Yeah, Dimitri's not interested, and he's like, "No, you have to eat the soup. I need you to be stronger because I need you to document my work."
Yeah, for posterity.
So, dun dun dun.
Guess who this is?
Yeah, so they were looking for Dr. Frankenstein, and they had him all along, and they didn't know it.
Yep, turns out this was Victor Frankenstein, the second. Dun dun dun.
Yeah, so he's like I think he says he's the grandson of the Victor Frankenstein we know.
Yep. His grandfather needed storms, but he has a generator.
Right. Yeah, and then we get some, like, he talks about, like, when he was a kid, he was fascinated by his grandpa's research, so he started experimenting on cats, which kind of feels like the thing, like, serial killer kids always, like, torture animals. As he got older, the war started, and he was captured by the Nazis because they wanted to use his skills.
They were going to kill him until they found out he had those skills. And then the commander of the camp was like, "Nah, that's our boy right there.
Yeah, we can definitely make use of his abilities."
And here's the part that fucked me up the most. So first off, they reveal, hey, Vasily's still alive. Guess what, though? He ain't got no arms. They cut off Vasily's arms. Now, that's bad, right? That's rough.
Yeah.
The thing that fucked me up here, like, this hurt me, was seeing some very small legs attached to a big pot body, and then me realizing that's Han's lower torso. They made that poor kid a pot.
Oh, yeah, because there's a couple of those pot things, but some of them are bigger. I didn't realize that's messed up.
Yeah, they turned him into a carry bot.
Yeah, those bots are real weird too. Like they're kind of like, it's going back to Psycho Gorman. It's like the thing that's just full of blood and has all like the guts floating around in it. But yeah, they're used as, like, I guess, sort of, yeah, like you said, carry bots basically.
Yeah, carrying everything around. Yeah.
Yeah, Vasily's on like a dolly, basically, right?
Yeah, dolly.
Frankenstein now is kind of giving Dimitri a tour of the facility. This is a bit especially that, like, if you're wanting to look at, like, long shots, because some of the earlier ones, the, like, haunted house bits, they're fast and shaky, but this one is slow and methodical and, like, a tour of the place. And if you start really looking at, like, oh my god, this shot has been going on a while, and we've seen things come and go from the scenery, and it's like, this had to be very carefully orchestrated.
Yeah, this was the Frankenstein cribs montage, moment, right?
Yeah, like you said, we see Vasily here, and, like, we're gonna see him again a little later in a different place, but like, the shot never cut. Like, he's been moved around in the background while we've been following Dimitri and Frankenstein. Yeah,
then we also get Dimitri actually giving the pitch to Frankenstein, right? He's like, listen, we're here to basically extract you. we want to make sure you have everything you need and that you survive this war. We just want to get you to Mother Russia, right?
Mm-hmm. Frankenstein's like, I'm not working for Russia because I'm not working for the Nazis anymore either. Like, I'm doing my own thing, and I have a plan to end the war.
Right. But he'll at least consider it for now, right? Before he gives his final offer. He's like, I'll take it on.
There's also a part when he's trying to recruit him, like, he's like, we want you to make these puppets, these robots for us. Right. And he's like, no. They're not puppets. They're not robots. They are living things that I've given life to.
Right. They have their own. They have their own thoughts. I think he says they have their own mind.
Yeah. They're like his servants, but like by choice. Like they're not. They're not robots that he's controlling. They're choosing to help their father, basically.
Right. So he's done the one thing that all Frankenstein should do, and actually loves his children, no matter how fucked up that is. But okay.
Yeah. And so he's like, so here's my like big plan. I'm gonna show you my grand idea. This is where we see Vasily again. He's here on the slab or on the gurney.
But we
also have
Sergei. I was gonna say.
So Sergei's captured as well, and he's like, I've brought a lot of dead people back to life, but the best creations I make are when I start with living, a living person. So tell me, which of these two guys is the best communist?
Right. And I love that Dimitri's like, Vasily's the guy.
Yeah. Frankenstein doesn't necessarily trust, so he kills Vasily or like injects him with something and is like, all right, well, we're going to use Sergei for this plan I have.
Oh, damn. But also, before we get to that, I want to show you what's going to happen to the guy who previously ran this camp.
So that we've got a Nazi soldier and Sergei, and so his whole idea now is he's going to put half of this Nazi's brain into Sergei's head.
Brain swap. Partial brain swap, I should say. Yeah, that way they can understand each other.
Yeah, like the idea is if we've got half of this great communist and half of this great Nazi, and we put them together...
Oxymorons, if I've ever heard them.
Right.
Yeah.
That somehow it's almost like, back in the old days where like you marry people off to like warring faction, like the daughter of this, king with this king's son, and then that'll, make peace. But here we're going to make peace inside a single guy's skull.
Right. Or two separate guys' skulls.
Yeah. So then we kind of like set down to like, that's what we're doing. We're going to do the surgery.
Hey, Eva's here. But there's something different about her.
She's got this weird thing coming off the back of her head.
Yeah, very Twi'lek. But I think it's probably a power cord.
Yeah.
And in the credits, she's Nurse Bot now. So if that tells you what happened to her.
Yeah. And so, he gets the brains put into Sergei's body and starts the reanimation process. He's just kind of like twitching and stuff, and he's like awake but not moving, or not really like, up and about. Well, and then Frankenstein's like...
Well, before he does that, like Sergei literally asked Dimitri, hey, you got to get us out of here so we can get the fuck out. And Dimitri's like, I can't. I can't and I won't.
Yeah. Yeah, he's still, Frankenstein's been he's not hurting Dimitri, so he's like, I'm going to keep documenting. Dimitri's like, I hear Soviet planes overhead, or like off in the distance.
The firebombing has started.
Like, yeah. And Frankenstein's like, well, I got time for one last thing before they get here.
Right. I must regretfully reject your offer. Oh, no. Frankenstein has turned the tables on Dimitri, who was originally an asshat too, so no one feels bad.
So he starts strapping Dimitri down, and he's like, all right, so what could I do? Well, I guess I could just permanently attach this camera to your skull.
He's like an artist. He's like, what can I do with what I got? Let's see.
Yeah. And so he kind of starts working on that, and then before he can get finished, the bombing commences. Frankenstein's like, all right, I gotta go, but I'm gonna take your camera with me because I need to keep this documentation since I'm gonna have to leave behind all my work.
Right, yeah, I gotta keep it up in here so no one can steal my trade secrets, right?
Yeah.
But first I'm gonna leave you with this lovely drug that will paralyze you. I used this on my dad when he was going to have me committed. What? That's a hell of a line to drop. Okay.
Yeah. before Frankenstein can escape, he's shot by Sasha, the
What?
last surviving Soviet.
That's crazy.
So the thing with them, like the crew kind of abandoning Dmitri was really nice because we don't know what happened with all the rest of them while Dmitri was walking around. So
we know they all
they've
got
been able
fucked
to-
up, except for Sasha.
Yeah, we kind of slowly, we find out, Vasily and then Sergei, like we kind of are introduced to them. But yeah, somehow Sasha managed to dodge whatever happened to the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
Now here he is. He takes Dimitri's camera away from Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm. And Dimitri's like, "Hey, you're here. Let me out. Let's go. We'll go together. We'll both be heroes of the Soviet or whatever."
Yeah, and Sasha's like, "Nope, sorry, can't help you."
Right? You little shit.
Yeah, so he heads out, and as he's leaving, we see that the Sergei monster is now stumbling around and is heading towards Dmitri to kill him.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and we actually do get to see Sergei tear into Dimitri's throat.
Mm-hmm. And then we just cut away to the final still shot of the movie, which is Sasha just standing next to Joseph Stalin. So
Welcome
clearly
back to
he was
the hero of the Soviet Union.
Yeah, so he was able to use the footage to his benefit, and is now in a the place of power that Dmitri was hoping to get into.
Well, joke's on him. He probably got shot the next week by Stalin. So, fuck him.
Yeah.
Hell of a movie.
It's just so well done. Like they really put a lot into this, and like it's one of those things where it doesn't feel like a low budget movie. Every dime they had, they put to good use. Yeah. I think they found some really good locations to shoot in, which allowed them to spend their money making the creatures look better.
Yeah, wherever they filmed this, it must have been dirt cheap with everything that they did with those creatures and those sets.
My only sort of nitpick with it is I think the found footage, which we've kind of mentioned already, is that it being found footage, you don't get to see the creatures as much, and it's like, man, these creatures look so good. I just want to really get good looks at them.
Right.
But considering the decision they made, I mean, it works incredibly well. Like it's thrilling. You're running along with Dmitri, like every one of those like haunted house runs is intense and like edge of your seat. It's really good. The monsters look great.
If you have motion sickness, probably skip it because it'll jack you up. But
yeah, like if you've seen Cloverfield, it's kind of similar shaky cam vibes to that.
Fair enough, but it's still so good. Like every monster design, like you said, the story actually making sense, and just the right amount of fucked it upness.
Yeah, it's really fucked up. It's really well put together, but like it's not gonna make you think too hard. It's a very smart, dumb movie, like you said. It has similarities to Army of Frankenstein's in that like it's not gonna make you work hard, but the tone could not be any different at the same time. Like this is very grim, very serious. There's no like tongue in cheek here. Like
that's exactly what I was gonna say. The tongue is planted firmly in those cheeks with Army of Frankenstein's.
It makes for an interesting kind of double feature in that the title is similar and that like theoretically it should be similar and that you have armies of Frankenstein type monsters, but at the same time they could not be any more different outside of that.
What is it about seeing a bunch of awful people get awful things done to them?
Yeah,
very cathartic.
It's so much fun. And I think, I think it being Soviet soldiers at the very end of World War II, it's not like, oh, these are our allied, American soldiers that we are going to like relate to and connect to. We're able to kind of like have that distance, especially like being like the Soviets are getting ready to become the bad guys. So we're in this gray area where like the Nazis are currently the bad guys, but we're on that cusp, and it's definitely used to the movie's benefit.
And I do appreciate the fact that they didn't feel the need to be like, the Americans came in and saved everybody, yay!
Right.
Or ended the war, killed all the bad guys,
Yeah.
Well, Anthony, listen, I like seeing, I don't know how to transition into this. All right, we're just going to see more like fucked up World War II stuff, okay? Next week is Overlord.
Overlord, and then that's one. Yeah, I'm excited to revisit that because I think I watched it right when it came out, and I haven't seen it since. But yeah, so we'll get into to Overlord next week.
Heck yeah! All right, Anthony, where can they find us?
Yeah, so you can find us on all the socials, mostly Twitter and Instagram, at the Frankencast. You can find us over on YouTube and Reddit. You can email us at thefrankencast@gmail.com. And you can always find us at patreon.com/thefrankencast.
Heck yeah. Well, we appreciate your time and attention. Thank you for listening to us. And as always, to be continued.
I just feel like that was needed, you know? Kind of the Nazi, or not Nazi propaganda, but like Soviet propaganda.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, good.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velasquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.